Welcome to the Kicking Up Dust Media channel. Before I start, guys, today's show is sponsored by King Moss. I'm going to put the link in the description box below. King Moss, they supply seamoss in different forms, in powder form, whatever form you want it in. They supply it. So check out the link. Seamoss is something that's known to be a very good supplement for your health. So check out the link below to the Instagram page and try some. So today's show, we've got like a little panel of people from different backgrounds, and there's a show that we would like to do on a regular basis. If not once a week, at least twice a month, discussing current affairs or discussing current issues. One of the things I want your guys' opinion on, I want it on, like, we're from the older generation, right? We're all a very similar age, and the knife crime, what do you want to call it? The knife crime thing that is going on right now. We had knife crime in our time, but it wasn't with individuals this young. 14 and 13-year-olds are regularly stabbing themselves. So I just want your opinion, obviously my opinion as well, on why this is happening, what's the prevention, and where is it going wrong? Because I can vouch for where I'm from, this wasn't happening in the late 90s and early 2000s. Did you ever hear anyone from the kids from the end stabbing each other growing up?
Not as much. Well, there were stabbings.
What I'm saying, the stabbings.
It wasn't prolific, no.
They were stabbing between criminals who were usually in their late teens, early 20s because of, But I can't remember hearing on a weekly basis that a 15-year-old got stabbed. I don't even remember that. So what do you think, Carl? That's Carl, by the way, from Hackney.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, there's a few different reasons why. I think one of the reasons why is that it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's advertised, but it's more known.
Yeah.
Like for example, like when I was growing up, I didn't know what was happening in Reading when I was living in Hackney.
Yeah.
But now, as a young person growing up, you know what's going on in all these parts of the town, or all these parts of the country, and a lot of times what you hear first is the negative stuff. So even a lot of young people that I see, I work with some people that are involved in knife crime and things like that as well, and a lot of people are carrying it because they think everybody else is carrying it. So it almost spreads like that as like an epidemic, So when, for example, just say about, 20, 30 years ago, when people were doing street robberies, it was more people were using fear and intimidation to get that whatever from somebody. Right. And then now, I think as time progressed now, people got a bit lazier and the knives become like an easy thing to use. So for example, now if everybody's robbing people using knives, if you're somebody in that community, you're going to feel you might need that knife to protect yourself. And then for me, that word just spreads to the average innocent young person growing up in certain areas feels they may need a knife to protect themselves. And just that almost the illusion just spreads, that narrative spreads. And as well, that the accessibility to the music and things like that as well. Like when you think about the music that everyone listens to, and that's a narrative that's constantly in the music about they're going to stab this person and then even people that are not involved now feel they have the need now. They have to carry now, almost for self-defense, and it just gets worse and worse.
What do you think?
I think you hit the nail on the head, personally. 100%. That's what it is, because in all fairness, you got to think about it like a good kid growing up, and you know that everybody in your neighborhood is carrying weapons, like stabbing people. You're not going to feel protected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're not in a gang, you're not part of any clique, whatever, you might not feel safe if you yourself are not carrying a knife. It's just...
Yeah.
But
and as well, it's one of the, when you think about it as well, it's one of the easiest accessible weapon.
It's a knife.
To everybody.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got a knife in the kitchen. Every mum's got a knife whether you use it for cutting chicken or where other weapons, for example, like a gun, everyone can't get a gun.
No.
You have to know someone probably, or you got to have a bit of money as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, where literally you can get a knife from the kitchen cupboard. Like some of these kids are getting knives off. I don't know about now, but they was getting them off eBay. EBay before. Yeah. Amazon, because like a lot of the knives that you see the kids that are getting caught with now, they're like almost collector knives.
Yeah.
So they're combat knives. They use that people like they're type of knives that
Hunting knives and that.
somebody would have something on the wall sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, so you could almost, if you're a collector, if you pose as a collector now, like you could buy them. So it's definitely. I'm not just sure if it's how bad it is, how worse it is now, because obviously I just think we do hear a lot more.
Social media is more accessible
about these things now. So like it's definitely it's definitely got worse and it's definitely amplified. But I think everything's amplified.
No, but what I'm thinking is
for me, like youth crime itself is amplified.
No, but what I'm thinking is, do you think that maybe it's not worse? It's just amplified, like you said a minute ago.
Yeah.
You said up and down the country now, you can find out what's going on in Manchester.
Yeah, I think it's still worse though.
Can I just tell you something? Can I just interject quick? You know, as for violent crime, let's talk about London. That's our capital, obviously.
Yeah.
So let's talk about London. You know, use that as an example. Do you know London was at its most violent in the early 2000s?
That's what I heard. Yeah,
it was at its most violent. The time it went over 200 murders in 1 year was in the 2000s. I can't remember 2002, 2003. The murder rate has decreased, and at some points massively. I think at one point in 2015 or 14, it went down to 96. And from the late 90s, early 2000s, I remember at that time in the 90s and early 2000s, it was a lower population. I think it was like 7.9 million. Now it's like 9 million. So you'd expect it to go up, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually gone down. But no doubt from being on the road in that era, it was more kind of, you know, gangland.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that was, you know, happening and...
Yeah, I think definitely, yeah. I think from that, you kind of hit it on the head with that.
Yeah.
You know, like, for example, like when I was in school, for example, there was roadmen and then there was normal men. Like, the line was really clear. Where now, literally, like, you go to, like, the average school and everybody thinks they're a roadman.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
You
The
know,
way they
so,
talk
like, it's a total different kettle of fish. Or even when you go into prison, for example, if you see a lot of people in prison, there's a lot of people that they shouldn't even be there.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that got caught up in the wrong situation and stuff like that. But it's because they all feel that they're road people. And for me, a lot of it, unfortunately, is just linked to the music. Because a lot of people, they listen to the music, they buy into the music, and they almost feel like that's the way to be, that's the way to live. You know.
Do you think it's become like in my opinion, is become a culture beyond the boundaries of race? It's a culture now.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's not race no more, boy.
Yeah.
Like
it's a culture now, right?
Not at all. Like, it's just like how America sees hip hop, for example. They see its hip hop culture as a culture. It's not like they almost see it almost not like a religion, but it is a movement to them in itself. So it's almost like nothing to do with race.
So do you think, this is a bit of a, you know, a touchy question, but do you think the especially the drill music in the UK is to blame for kids carrying knives?
No. Let me say one thing. So drill is similar to hip hop in the 90s, right? So how I look at it, you can't blame the music because the origin of the music is people saying what they see happening, right?
Yeah,
so
true.
the drill artists and obviously all that's happened now is they're getting paid to say it more. The people to blame is the people that promote it. So the audience first, because they're buying it, right? If they weren't buying it, there'll be no drill music.
Yeah.
The record labels for signing them, because realistically, you can't say certain things on the radio. You can't go on the radio and say anti-Semitism, or else you get shut down. But murder, stab, it's fine, because it sells, innit? But I don't know if you could blame the music as, you know, the kids making drill.
Yeah.
I don't think you could blame them personally.
I know, like,
because they're representing what they see.
They're just trying to get to the bag.
Like,
Yeah.
But you see, my problem is that even like with what you just said, I don't think a lot of them are not rapping about what they see. Like,
That's true.
like a lot
That's
of people
true.
are rapping what they think people want to hear.
Yeah,
So
true.
a lot of these drill artists, they're not from the streets. So they're not like, because for anybody who's been in the streets, you don't even have time to rap when you're fully in the streets.
When you're fully active.
When you're fully active, there's no time really for any of those things. You know, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of people, and I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people who get into the music thing, they're almost on the fringes. So they might have a cousin who does this, so they know bits and pieces. So they're around the lingo, they hear the talk, and they know what's going on, but they're not actually fully active. But they know that what people buy into and what people are kind of want to hear about is the fully activeness. They want to hear about this. They want to hear about stabbings and this, that, and that. Because like, a lot of the young crews, for example, that come up that are really doing it, you see a lot of them don't last. They don't last long. The police pick them off early.
Yeah, true.
A lot of the gangs, you know, this guy's active. You give it like a few months. The police have trailed through their videos and they've locked this man up for this amount of time, locked this man up. Like, please find them, those guys quick.
Yeah, you know, they're onto them guys.
They're onto. They got the specialist units that are dedicated.
You know
for that.
You know, one of the things I've noticed in the stabbings between young people is like I said earlier, it's quite common now. Say ages of 14 to 16, and like I said, when we were growing up, it was, for me personally, it was unheard of.
Yeah,
because we're on the road.
Yeah,
that's something we would hear about. Okay, for example, look now where we are right now, our location. Within 1.5 miles of the location, I think 5 or 6 people this year have been stabbed to death. It's 1.5 miles from where we are right now. That's like, and all kind of kids, young children, you know, over just not even road related issues, you know, a fallout over someone else and stuff like that. So I have noticed that that's a question I keep asking myself, boy, what's happened? You know? Yeah. I think, you know, in England, the actual weapon, a knife, is a substitute for a gun, like you said earlier. Yeah. You know, sometimes, you know, it's funny, you'd find people in the comments, you know, when you start talking about things like this, they'd be like, oh, they could get a gun for £500. Yeah. So I'm like, you know, I find it funny, innit? Because like, obviously, you've never been on the road, yeah? And whatever. So obviously in this country, you know, anyone who's been half on the road, they know guns are very expensive. Yeah. So it's like, in America, I was speaking to some American brothers about, you know, I just wanted a bit of knowledge about what's the price for guns in America on the street level. Yeah. And they said like a dirty 38, you could buy on the street in America, or dirty 9mm, you could buy for like $50, $100. Yeah.
That makes sense though.
That's like...
That's crazy.
Yeah,
imagine
£40, £80?
Imagine £80 for a handgun in the UK. Yeah. It'd be chaos.
You understand?
Yeah. It'd be chaos.
And I thought, that's exactly what I thought. I thought, could you imagine if you took all these knives away from these kids and gave these kids guns? It would be mad. So the knife is like a substitute.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's a substitute for some people. It's almost like the great equalizer. You know, obviously, when we was young, it was all about your fists. That's how you got a reputation. Like when I was young, anyway. Like we was in school, it was like who's the hardest. That hardest man normally turned out to be the bad man later on in life. You know, that was the route. You know, where now it's like you don't have to be the hardest no more. It's not about your fist. It's not. If you're the person that backs it out in the right time or puts on the right person, then by default now you're that guy. And a lot of people see that a lot of people know that. So then it's now then invites a lot of more people to the table that normally they wouldn't have got to the table. Those people would have been weeded out early. Because they would have had a couple of fights, got punched up a few times.
Yeah, put in the place, yeah.
You would never heard of that guy again. Yeah. He would have just got a job somewhere or whatever. But now it's like literally like anybody feels like they can like I don't know, come to the table.
100%, yeah. And you're right about what you said, is just this knife carrying thing has become like, you know, just the thing to go to. Yeah. Just
you know what? So I just thought of something. Could it just be the media's better? Because if you, I always like to go back to history.
I'm going to more personal experiences, not the media.
I know. But I like to go back to history. And like, in the 90s, Scotland started a knife epidemic. People were getting stabbed left and right.
I remember Glasgow, I think it was.
You know what I'm saying? It was Glasgow. You had the highest murder rate at that same time. Yeah. With knives though, knife crime. Yeah. So, and the UK is notorious for stabbings. Like, it's English culture. I reckon it's English culture. No, that's what I believe.
But like,
more so than the drill, more so than all of that.
It's definitely got a lot worse though.
Amongst kids.
It's definitely like because like kind of same thing what he was saying.
I'm not saying it ain't got worse.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it hasn't got worse, but what I'm thinking is, I think stabbings have always been happening. We know the news is more available now, so it highlights more now. We can see what's happening now, like you said. Not saying it hasn't got worse. And with obviously the drill music, it's obviously in your face now. Because there's artists popping up, like you said, who have nothing to do with the roads, promoting the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the UK's knife culture in the UK goes hand in hand. That's my sentiment.
Yeah. You know I don't think it's that hand in hand.
I do.
I don't think because even like
if you go Sherlock Holmes days, man, people were getting shivved up. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think like it's always more been like an underworld thing, innit? So I hear what you're saying. So definitely like in the underworld, on the streets. Then the knives have always been about. Yeah. Because even when I was young, when I was 13, people who were involved in certain things carried knives. That it was, but not everyone was getting stabbed. you know, because not everyone was carrying knives. But the people that was real serious, they were carrying it. And if push comes to shove, then they were dealing with it. But I said for me that it's now it's literally everywhere now, because like before that, as I said, there was a clear divide, but now like see for me back then growing up, a nerd didn't feel unsafe. A nerd knew what it was. He was a nerd and he just went about his nerd life.
No one's gonna poke him up.
No one's
you know?
gonna poke him. You can go like he's not involved. But now it's like literally like everybody's like almost a target. Everybody's a victim. Especially with even like with phones, for example, and stuff like that as well. You know, that's something that you can see and you can like take from someone like straight away. Where when I was growing up, for example, it'd be, I don't know, your cap or your jacket or your trainers, and those things like are harder prize off a man than it is someone that carried a phone. A phone is something that you can literally just take from someone and you can go. You know, so definitely come back to what I was saying before. I think definitely some of it is just almost the rise of the lazy criminal. You know, as I said, where before,
I like that.
People was like, as fear and intimidation could go far. You could just look at them in a certain way and they'll give you something. But now it's almost like no one's not feeling, no one's going off that look no more. It's like,
let me ask you a question. Yeah, you grew up in the blocks. Yeah, it wasn't the nicest place to grow up.
No.
How many 15-year-olds do you know that got stabbed?
No, you're right. It didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Only both of you are right. Only serious guys.
One thing. Go on. The elders also wouldn't have probably allowed it to happen.
Nah.
In my neighborhood,
Yeah, same as mine.
ain't no. But when we, come on, our ends. You think we're gonna let them youngers carry knives at 15?
Yeah.
They knew better than that.
point,
You understand? They're not gonna carry them knives. If they've got a problem, then they'll come to us and say we've got a problem, which happened many times. Okay, once they get older, 18, 19, 20, then obviously they live how they want to live. But at that young age, you ain't carrying knives around here. You understand what I mean? So I think at that time, in our communities, the elders on road had a bit more control and sway and
definitely.
stuff like that.
I think for me, that's a really good point, to be honest. That's one of the major factors as well, is that really there's no elders no more. When we was growing up, there was clear elders. There was people who was like put in their work and was like, could like reconcile certain things, squash certain things and stuff like that. Now, a lot of the people who would be elders, they're now in prison, for example, doing big long sentences. So now, like these kids, a lot of the kids who are growing up, they don't really have no one to look up to. There's no one like to say, all right, they're going to look up to my man. That's the elder. If you ask some of these kids who the elders are, their elder might be 26. Or that elder, that's still a young man.
Exactly,
It's not like a 30-year-old man or something like that. Said, like, a lot of those guys, they're not about no more.
That's right,
Like,
and you know what else you got to remember as well? This is another massive thing I think that's played a part of this. So back in the day, especially in London, where you're from, see, the beefs were between areas. So this part of North with that part of North. The beefs, a lot of them now are within gangs in the same area. So for example, your block 193 against 195, and that's what it is now, like people in the same man, and that's much more dangerous because you're gonna see a brer nearly every other day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Understand? Because back in the day when the neighbours were beefing, you would go to their neighbourhood to find them all backwards and forwards. But now it's like they're seeing each other.
I think even when you think about neighbourhood beefing though, it normally started off with people.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So that's the weird thing about neighbourhood beefs, is that neighbourhood beefs would normally be like, I don't know, this man from Hackney goes to Brixton, gets troubled in Brixton. Then he comes back, and now he wants to bring the whole of Hackney now to fight this Brixton. So it's him that's really kind of created that beef. Like it wasn't just these people just picking out places on the map saying we're warring with this area. It was more, this guy doesn't know how to deal with a certain situation, and then it's now roping in. Because even for me growing up in Hackney, for example, there was a lot of beefs that certain people in Hackney had that wasn't that was nothing to do with us. They'll be like, oh, you know what? So it wasn't even just any Hackney beef that people was joining in. But normally, or sometimes you could get roped in by default. Because if you're like from Hackney and you go a certain way, and then somebody puts it on you, then obviously now you feel violated now, and you feel like you have to do something. So you're going to go back to Hackney and almost have a roll call and be like, who's in this?
Man, it's a roll call,
and they're trying to get everybody involved and stuff like that. And normally, that's how those things kind of escalated. But I just think, in this day and age, everybody's just so connected now.
True, you're right.
Yeah, I think so that's why I think a lot of the beefs are more on people's doorstep, and they just finished the point where I think there's a lot more people active now.
True.
So that's why there's a lot of like infighting, because as I said, for me growing up where I grew up, like you could name the active people. Like everyone knew.
What part of Hackney did you grow up? If you don't mind me asking.
So I lived in a few places. I'm on like Holly Street.
Yeah.
You know. So and even then, for me, like growing up, you almost knew the hierarchy of it.
Yeah, you knew.
So I knew the legendary elders to people that was under the legendary elders.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you literally knew everything.
Exactly.
And you knew your place, kind of in that as well.
There's some type of order.
Yeah, there were definitely order. There were definitely things that I couldn't do growing up,
Right.
just because of the ecosystem of the ends.
What's the ends? All right, to finish off with this question, do you think the government is doing a good job in trying to fix this problem?
Yeah, I think you know what it is. I think they're doing the best. I think they can't do nothing about it.
They can't.
I don't think they can, because for me this is a streets problem, and the government and the streets don't mix.
They're so far away from.
We don't listen to the police. We don't care about the police. So this isn't like, and you know, especially like, because I speak to some of these young people as well. Like sometimes the people that deliver the message, that's important. So why are they going to listen to Boris Johnson? Why are they listening to Sadiq Khan? And he put like someone who's a million miles away from their lifestyle, a million miles away. Like, yeah.
Can I ask you something to do with this? You know, do you ever watch the Parliament question time in Parliament?
Yeah, I see that sometimes. Yeah.
Do you ever notice the similarities between them guys in Parliament and Roadman?
You know what it is? I think there's similarities everywhere.
Yeah.
I think just in society, there's more that kind of we have in similar than that separates us. But unfortunately, people always focus on the stuff that separates you,
Yeah.
and that's how you keep people divided.
You know. When I watched that, it's two gangs. You know, like back in the day when back in the day when you're rolling.
Yeah.
No matter what your friend's done, he's in the right.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, you just,
And like they're rolling conservatives. Like they don't matter what they've done wrong.
Yeah.
Nah, we're against. Like, you understand?
Exactly,
And they lie at any cost to get out of it.
And it's like infighting as well.
Yeah, infighting.
Yeah,
you know.
infighting.
So Boris' job ain't safe.
It's just
There's
a
like four men behind him.
Behind him wants a
trying to
job.
get
Yeah,
that job.
exactly.
Wait for him to slip up.
So it's like a posh form
Yeah.
of roads.
That's what I was gonna say. They're just the problem with the government. I reckon they're detached.
So what's the solution
relate.
then?
They can't relate. The only solution would be community stuff.
Yeah.
People that, like
That's
you
what
said, that
yeah.
can speak to the kids.
Yeah.
But then information is moving too fast. So social media and stuff. Like you remember, like when we were talking about back in the day, a beef could take 2 weeks to actually for it to be certified as a beef going on.
Yeah,
now with social media,
Yeah, straight away.
like
Straight
you know what I
away.
mean, like before you could be like, oh, he said
That's
this.
a good point.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
a
he
good
said
point.
this
Yes.
because of that. He said
Like-
that.
like,
But the
even
time
like
you
with-
actually,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Because back in the day, you're not sure if it's beef. You know, like it's not. Is it theirs at that point? You know, you
And
don't.
it's all word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no social media. So if a man went and had a problem, he couldn't like post that. Or he couldn't
Post
be
that,
telling
yeah,
people.
exactly,
He couldn't
yeah.
send the message. You'd have to come to the ends, and hopefully everyone's about, and you
Yeah,
have to hear
exactly.
about it. And then and even then, if you're gonna go there, then the next day it's like he's got to make sure everyone's at the same. There was a lot
Yeah,
of
exactly.
A lot of logistics.
Yeah,
a lot of
logistics.
A lot of
No
logistics.
organisation.
But
Would
now
happen.
you could just, you know what I mean?
like
So you-
now.
You could do a WhatsApp group, one
And it's
WhatsApp
like-
group, bang.
And that's one of the main things, like that the government learned when they had the riots. Yeah.
Oh, the power of social
Yeah,
media.
with the power, because
Yeah.
in those days it was the BBM business, it was the BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how everyone quickly mobilized and was like licking up certain places. That's when they knew, wow, actually this thing could be used
yeah.
to organize people and to get people active. Because literally, it started off with a group of people outside the police station, not happy with what was going on and stuff like that, and that literal thing spread through the whole of London.
And then to Manchester.
And then the
And
Manchester,
then-
and then the other
yeah,
bars,
yeah.
stuff like that. And that literally, like, a lot of that was the BBM. You could do like the broadcast, you could do like the group messaging and stuff like that. So it'd be like, you know what, hitting Selfridges, it'd be like broadcast. And there's like, even people that weren't even involved in stuff like that might get that broadcast.
A quick, yeah.
Would thinking, I can get a trainers or whatever it is, I'll get a jacket or stuff like that.
You know, do you think that now to be a part of the street or to be a part of a gang or whatever is more of a glamour thing than a money thing?
Yeah, I think it's a glamour thing. I think it's too easy now as well. Like where before there was like almost there was like a sort of steps you have to go through before people would even recognize you a certain way.
Yeah.
But now it's literally like
Overnight.
overnight.
It's what you said earlier as well, though. Part of a gang, they're different. I would say if there's no clear line now between a gang member and not a gang member, you could be a virtual gang member. So I'm being serious.
no,
So on social media, on Facebook, on whatever, or Instagram,
true,
I could be associated with a certain clique. I could be posting all the right things and that, but I'm not physically there with that gang. Whereas like, you know, like in the olden days, like you said, you had to put in work to be a member of the gang in the first place, not just, but now you could be, you know what I mean? That's like, I reckon people are getting caught up as well. The people are posting things, they might not even know the real meaning of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think like there's a lot more people, as I said, that are getting involved that shouldn't be involved. Where before, for example, if you interview some people, just say about 30 years ago, people that were involved in that certain lifestyle, you could almost have plotted their life. So you could almost say, all right, and this guy comes from a broken home, he lives in this area. You can almost plot the rise to where he went to. Now, this man comes from Cornwall. He's a 2-parent family. He had all the opportunities in the world, but for some reason,
what he chose.
he chose this. So there's a lot more people that are choosing it. Where for me growing up, it wasn't like a choice for a lot of people. It was the opportunities there was no opportunities. People look left, look right. There was nothing. There was no jobs, no nothing, and they ended up doing that. Now people are turning down like almost opportunities because, as it was saying for me, because it's glamorized now. Because it's like just a thing now. It's like these people are worshipped. These people are looked on a certain way, and everybody wants that kind of accolade. Everybody wants that feeling of respect and
some of these music tracks actually getting famous on TikTok, where people are actually doing like special kind of, you know, dances to it, and like, I'm like, listen to what he's saying, and I'm like, dip this, dip that, you know, dipping and stabbing, obviously.
Exactly.
And it's like, yo, this has become like a proper culture now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of deep. So what you can't see no like solution.
Yeah, I think there are definitely solutions, but I think all the solutions are just community based. I think we need to, because a lot of those things for me, the problem is in our community anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
The glamorization of certain things.
They're honoured.
Glamorized. You put on platforms, you're celebrated.
That's true, yeah. 100%.
So for me, until that stops happening.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, for me, then that's when for me certain changes, and for me that's what we as a community need to stop glamorizing certain things, stop honouring certain things, actually calling out certain people and say, you know what, this isn't
wrong.
Yeah, this is wrong, and just stop it bleeding into like the other part of society. So if this is what man are doing, all right, cool, you just do that over there then. That stays over there. We don't have to hear about it and stuff like that. Where now it's like literally like everybody knows.
Everywhere, I think we covered that topic quite well, man. That was good.